Hello, welcome back. This is part 5 of the Karl-Gerat Siege Mortar series, and as you can see I've got the two railway carriages put together. They sort of go together really well. There are a couple of things that don't, and I'll just show you quickly what they are. The main bearing here, now I'm guessing that it's meant to turn right the way around, and so that you could take the gun off sideways if you had two parallel tracks, and because of that it really doesn't fit well on here at all. It wobbles all over the place. I want to make a static presentation of a display of it, if you want, and to do that I've glued everything together because it makes more sense to me to do it that way. But this wobbled all over the place, it really did, and there's a lot of stuff to go on there, and what that would mean is if you didn't fix it in place, if ever you decided to move it, it would fall to pieces. You'd stand a huge chance of breaking stuff. So I decided to glue it all in place, as I say, and that turned out to be quite quite a task. I ended up putting two small blocks of wood underneath it and sticking them together with double-sided tape, sticking one double-sided tape to the bottom of the railway wagon and one double-sided tape to the bottom of the railway truck. Had I realised the problem that it was going to be, how difficult that was going to be, before I put all the superstructure on top of this, the actual bearing down here, I would have fixed the bearing down with a couple of pieces of wire down to the railway wagon and fixed it into place. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, and I didn't know at the time. Hey ho. So everything else is pretty good. As you can see, I've weathered it. Well, I've not weathered it, I've aged it. So we've got all the rusting on there, and it did start off as a dark grey, and because of the rusting that has turned it to something other than dark grey, and I think the video doesn't really do it justice, you know. I will put, the lighting's all wrong, but I will put some photographs on, and the photographs show it much more clearly where it's been weathered and rusted up, and to be honest, even though I say it myself, I think it looks cool. Couple of bits that you might want to point out for yourself. I'm trying to, yeah, you can see it. These two levers here need to be swan necks so that you can get them clear of the base of the floor of the wagon. I decided to leave these bases down, these steps down, because if you look underneath, they don't look at all realistic. They look like pieces of plastic. There's no detail in there whatsoever, so it's favourite to put them so that they're pointing downwards. They're just sticking out, and they are actually steps so that people can control the use of the bearing there. The rams, the hydraulic jacks at the back here, fairly simple. There there are handles on. Do you know, I've just realised there are two extra handles of this one here, and I've just realised it would go on there, but the instructions don't tell you to do that. That'll go on soon. The handle here for the hydraulic jacks, to that one would move them more or less across, back and forth, and they would slide on these two rails here. This one in the centre is of course where the pipe work goes, so that would move them across. These two levers would jack the frames up, and these two hydraulic tanks of course hold the hydraulic fluid. The little PE controls, handles, wheels, whatever you want to call them, valves on the bottom of the hydraulic tanks. There's not a lot else to tell you about this really. The toolboxes don't open, but you know, when they're rusted up and aged a little bit, they look quite realistic. The front bumper, as I mentioned in the last, the buffers and the couplings, I've glued all that together because I'm not going to couple it to anything. The buffers need a little bit of darkening down. That silver paint needs darkening down a little bit, and maybe a little bit of black put in the middle where the grease would be. And apart from that, I think we're done. The piece here, which would join the two wagons together if the gun wasn't on them. So again, that would be on the side of the train there, on the side of the wagon, and it would be aged. It's as simple as that. It wouldn't look real if it was all painted shiny grey. That's about it. Two wagons are both the same, you know, just to look at it. The only difference is this toolbox on the front truck, what they call the front truck, is a little bit bigger than it is on the rear truck. Hey ho. And everything else pretty much exactly the same. That goes on there. So as you can see from my spinny round thing, there's very little difference with them at all. What I'm going to do next, as I mentioned in the last video, let's move these out of the way for a second or two. What I'm going to do next, as I mentioned in the last video, is put the frames together. These two frames. And they sit on top of the bearing there. They go on top of the bearing and then on top of the two jacks. And I'll try and explain more when I put them together. That's about it for this one. Just a quick interim when I've got it painted, really. Thanks very much for watching. It'd be great if you could like and subscribe. If you have any comments, good or bad, please don't hesitate, put them in the space below. And I'll see you next time. Ta-da!